Hello, hello. Today I have with me Andrea Fung. And based on our pre-conversation already, we're going to have a good conversation here. Andrea is an ex-lawyer turned transformation coach, and during her years in practice, she encountered anxiety and burnout, strained personal relationships, and a lack of purpose and fulfillment. She followed her soul's calling for something more, following joy, and curated a life of helping clients reconnect with joy, abundance, and purpose. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brenda, for having me on this show. I am so excited for the energy exchange and the exchange of wisdom that we're going to have during this conversation. And if you can't
I
see it, I hope you feel it.
I do. And I know it's going to be good because we've already had a great conversation before we pushed
Yes,
record.
we. It's a great way to ease into it.
Yep. So on the show, there's nothing shallow here. We don't stay on the surface. We just go right into the deep waters here, into that messy and challenging time in your life. And how did it shape your journey and become the catalyst for your transformation? Can you take us there and share a little bit about that time?
I think well, there were two moments that come up to mind, but I'll take you to the genesis, I will say. It would be, well, somewhat of a genesis. It would be end of 2020. Picture this, you've been a lawyer for 6 years. That's all you know. You've got this supposedly great life, great pay, white picket fence life, glamorous career. People look up to you and you look at everything around you and you think, why am I so miserable? Why do
Mm,
I feel so empty? And there's nothing that I can do about it because at that point it was the pandemic. So I can't go to meet my friends. I can't party the misery away. I can't drink the misery away. I can't engage in
mm.
debauchery to get rid of to expend that energy. And I didn't know what else to do. And I feel like for many years now, that's the reason probably why I chased pleasure so much and why I was such an adrenaline junkie. It was to dispel this emptiness that was always creeping in, this
Mm.
emptiness, this thing that deep down, whether you wanted to face it or not, in a way you knew that if you were to confront it, you wouldn't probably for the first time you wouldn't have an answer and you would not be able to figure it out and you're just going to have
Yeah.
to trust, and that was so scary. So holding all of that, facing the uncertainty, holding that misery as well and the emptiness, and looking into this dark future that you don't know what's there, that was just really, really painful for me. It's one thing if you're unhappy in a situation, like it's a toxic workplace, a toxic relationship, or something's breaking down, oh, this makes me unhappy, to move away. But in this scenario, everything was great. So where do you move from if everything is so great?
It's such a profound question. Like, so as I'm envisioning, because, yeah, okay, you just clarified that so well. Everything was great in your life except you were not. Internally, you were not.
Yeah, I was not. And I don't know why. How can life be
Yeah.
so great and you not feel this great? I should feel so happy, so joyful for this, all these things that I have that society would deem would bring me happiness, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't even have to, I was nowhere near a millionaire. You know what I mean? Nowhere near there. But because, you normally the story would be, oh yeah, I had all this money and I was earning six, seven figures and I was still unhappy. But even at that point, I wasn't. And I was in a situation where I thought to myself, I don't care if a fairy godmother came to me and gave me this amazing body and a hot ass spouse with an eight pack and did all the stuff around the house and like gave me $10 million at my feet. No, $10 billion at my feet. And I was at that point where even if I had this fairy godmother, I would still be incredibly empty and
Mm,
incredibly unhappy because it's not going to fix this.
sure. Was
Yeah.
this kind of a slow revelation to you, or just kind of like a one moment, like, holy shit, this is it?
I think it started off as a very, very slow creeping in. And me
Yep.
being human, She's like, no, no, I'm not going to face that. I'm going to go do all the other
Mm.
things. I'm going to drown myself in pleasure and adrenaline and dopamine and everything that I could, so that I could dispel that revelation creeping in. But when the pandemic hit, it just came rolling in like an avalanche and
Oh, I get that
crashed.
now. I see that because there was no outlet.
There was no outlet.
Connecting the dots now. I remember you
Yes,
saying that, but it wasn't triggering in my brain. So there was like no outlet.
there
So
was no
in
outlet.
true, like I would say, so many people in that time also had to sit with themselves. So you had to
Yes,
sit with yourself.
you're absolutely right. I had to sit with myself, and I had to sit with discomfort, And number one, we're not really taught to sit with discomfort. We don't know how to sit with discomfort. Even
No.
as children, when you're crying and having a tantrum, your parents just send you to the corner, right? Or just physically discipline it out of you. So sitting with discomfort, sitting with unhappiness, that's scary. We don't know how to do
Mhm.
that. It's not safe to do that. And so you're just navigating all this on your own because, well, you can't go to your friends anymore to do that because it's the pandemic.
Right.
And your friends probably also don't really get it because they're not on that journey. So
Right.
it was, yeah, sitting with the discomfort was so painful. I just didn't want to be in this body. I just wanted to go home. And when I mean home, I meant home to the stars that I didn't even know anything about at the time. I didn't want to be on earth anymore. I didn't want to inhabit this human body anymore. I just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do get that. I do get that. So what did you do? So it's 2020, you're sitting in this, you're sitting in the discomfort. You would really like to just leave this
Yeah.
human experience and go back to the astral plane, the soul where you came from. I
Yes.
totally get that.
I've, it happens more often than we realize, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you do?
So at that time, my best friend, he was pushing me to work with this coach who is actually an energy healer, but she calls herself a coach at that time.
Oh,
And I didn't even know, I didn't know when I don't know anything about personal development. I don't know anything about spirituality. It's just not my life, not my
mhm.
reality. And so
Yep.
when it comes to coaches, like, I thought the only coaches that existed were soccer coaches, I don't know, volleyball coaches, something like those are all the coaches that I know. So when he told me about to work with this coach, I was like, what are you talking about? But I've seen the improvements that have happened in his life, in his mood, in his
Mm,
overall way of being. And so I thought, well, I don't know anything about it. I don't know, this something has dropped on my lap as a breadcrumb, so I'm just gonna follow it. So I worked with her for I think like maybe 8 months, and she's a certified spiral practitioner, and she worked with chakras. And at the time,
yep.
I didn't even know what chakras were. And so all I did was, and I was so drowning in trauma and misery that I didn't even have the capacity to look into what exactly it was that she was doing. So all I did was I show up and I let her work her magic. I let her dig into, childhood traumas from when I was 1, 3, 10, or 15, and answered whatever question it is that came to mind. And that was all I did. I just showed up and I just let her do her thing. And at the end of it, I decided I can't do law anymore. I've already quit law once before,
Mm,
but I realize now if I stay, I will 100% be miserable. But if I took my chances out there, I might find something. Maybe I
yeah.
won't. Maybe it might take a while, but I will find something. I will find purpose. I will find work and something that brings me joy, that is going to feel like I was born to do this. And so I
Yeah.
did. And about
How
2 years later, I found it. Yes.
nice. I'm going to go there, but I want to go back to what drew you into being a lawyer in the first place?
Would you believe that it was just because I didn't want to do math? And I'm Chinese as well, defying all stereotypes. Actually,
Wow.
it was really because of that, because I grew up in this like strict Asian family, and your only options, right, was to be a professional. So engineer, med school, investment banker, something along those lines, and lawyer was on top of one of those job options. And so with only, 4 or 5 options to choose from, and all of them required some level of math, and I hated math. So I thought, I'm just gonna do law, and I love talking, so why not?
I love the deduction there.
Yeah, it's just process of elimination, right? Basic.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I did
S-
law.
So 8 months working with this coach, you realized I have to leave law. What were some of the other things that you noticed was happening
Well,
after
when you
working with her?
okay. So it was actually 10 weeks working with her.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, 10 weeks working with her. And during the time that I was working with her, I kind of noticed that the heaviness started to lift a bit more. And I
Mm,
didn't realize it at the time because, who would have thought that they would work with an energy healer at first go as their first foray into personal development, right? I didn't realize that.
I think it's the
But
best thing to do personally. So,
it was kind of like going right to the core, to the deep end.
yes.
Looking back now, I can see how the dots connected. So coming back to your question, I felt like my energy just started to lift. I didn't fully understand it, obviously, but I
Hmm.
guess I started that journey of learning more about myself. What were the things that were holding me back? What were the beliefs that were holding me back? And when I got to understand that a little bit more, it helped me so much along the journey of following what brings me joy. And that was how it started. It was, okay, I'm going to quit law, but what is the way forward? I don't know where I'm going, honestly. It's not like
Right.
I'm quitting law to go do A or B or C. It's I'm quitting law to anything. so I
Right.
decided, so if I decided, if I didn't know where exactly I was going, I was going to let joy dictate that for me. And so bit
Mm,
by bit, through following what lit me up, what made me curious, what I felt pulled to do, I didn't even know that I was quite intuitive at the time. I really didn't. I didn't follow my intuition not to my conscious awareness anyway. So bit by bit through following my joy, I just became happier and happier and happier. I mean, were there moments of breakdown and crying when when
that
you
is
come,
part of the journey.
right? It's part of the journey. There were so many moments of exhaustion, of burnout, of breakdown and crying as an entrepreneur, at moving on to that at that time. But it was worth it because I always had my North Star, which is my joy, at the other side of it, pulling
Hmm.
me forward as a vision to hold me there, to hold me true and hold me on the path. So yeah, that was what happened.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. What would you say, Andrea, has been your biggest lesson?
I would say the biggest lesson was I learned to connect with myself and to be in relationship with myself. I think looking back now, I didn't realize how disconnected I was to my human body. I was so in my mind that I just treated my body and the way I led my life like something like an emotional garbage bin. So the biggest lesson I would say, I learned to connect with myself, to be in relationship with myself. I learned to value my existence and my humanity. I think I would say that would have been the biggest lessons, to value
Mm,
my existence, my humanity, that what I came here to do, that me being created to be here has a purpose, has a unique calling. And that should be valued, that should be cherished, that should be discovered, that should be looked into.
yes. Oh, goosebumps. So powerful. I'm going to go back a little bit to you said disconnected with your body and treated it like an emotional garbage dump. What do you, so with what you've learned, what do you do now so that you don't continue to dump emotionally and allow your body to hold it? What are you doing?
Well, back in the day, I treated it like an emotional garbage dump because I didn't want to face my emotions. I couldn't sit with it. But
Mm,
now, the way I love my body more is to actually listen to it, because emotions, triggers that come from the body, it's our body communicating to us from spirit, from soul, from the beyond. So now I sit with it and I cherish my body, and I send so much gratitude to my body for telling me, for conveying to me what needs to be healed, what I have had in denial for so long, what it is that I refuse to see. And through sitting with it, I let the emotion pass. And when that emotion passes, then it's as if I feel like it deepens my relationship with my body even more. I feel like it
Mm.
bridges and deepens my relationship with my soul and spirit as well as with my body. It deepens it so much more. It feels like I get to unify mind, body, soul every single time I honor my body and I sit with my emotions. And whenever I treat my body like this temple that it is, instead of eating things down or numbing my feelings with Netflix or burgers or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head because I'm like 1,000% agree. I love
Yes.
the answer. Love the answer. Like, yes,
it's
yes.
it's such an
Yeah,
important thing to be in connection, to have to have your mind, body, soul in full unison and
yeah,
harmony with each other, because
yeah,
then we get to be our most creative, we get to radiate our best selves as we move through life, and that
yeah,
allows other people to see also what's possible, the happiness that is possible for them.
yeah. I like preaching the choir here. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes,
And that's why we're doing this podcast together.
yes, absolutely. What would you say was the biggest thing you had to accept through this process, through this journey?
I think the biggest thing, the one thing that comes to mind, in the beginning, I had to accept that it's okay to be lost. It's okay
Mm,
to not be able to figure things out with your limited mind. And I came to realize that being lost has been the most empowering state I have ever accepted.
mm,
Because you could
mm.
look at it as being lost, or you could look at it as now officially accepting and saying, yes, I am going to play in the realm of infinite possibilities.
Or yeah, to play and go seeking, right? Like you kind
Yes,
of does become like this line in the sand. I can either
yes,
just be lost and just stay stuck in that and asking the
yes,
same questions, or I can choose to take a step and play and
yes,
seek alternative ways, seek something
yes,
different,
yes,
right?
yes. Absolutely,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And so, but in order to get to that point, you have to first accept that you are lost, right?
Yes.
Yes. So you can go
Yes, and
from
that can
there.
be facing its own fear, right? Like it's just
Yes.
that can be facing that could be that first fear that you really have to look and dig in because like so to me acknowledging and accepting like they go together and they're
You're right.
very like
Absolutely right.
they could be nanoseconds apart on this healing journey, but those are the two things that have to happen first before anything can change.
Yes, you're
Acknowledge and
absolutely
accept
right.
before anything can change, whether it's your thoughts, your anything.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I think I feel like that can come across as this way of thinking can come across as quite controversial depending on what communities or social circles are hearing this. Because
Yes.
loss normally denotes weakness, it denotes lack of direction, lack of ambition, it denotes that you don't normally have your life together,
And that's
depending on
also
who's looking at it, right?
correct. And it's
Yes.
then also too, when you're in that place, it's also very lonely because you've most
Yes.
likely are not telling anyone about it or talking about it. And you
Yes.
said at the beginning of this, I had everything. My life, I'm imagining on the outside looked great. You had it all. You were the
Yes.
definition of success. I think those were your words. But on
Yes.
the inside, you're miserable. And I think that that in and of itself is something that many listeners, if they're not feeling it now, may have felt it at some point in their life that will resonate with that feeling, right?
Yes.
And it's in those moments you had a friend who you were you were talking to, right? And who
Mm,
helped point you, direct you somewhere else.
mm.
So vital and important to, I don't know, I just feel to find that person or seek for yourself someone, coach, energy healer, whatever, that you can just begin conversations with to help get
Yes.
you out of that. If you don't have a person that you're safe with, to start talking about those things now, because for you, it was through the power of conversation, as
Mm,
well as witnessing and watching how much your friend had changed,
mm.
that, oh, okay, that could be for me. That's very similar to my experience when I started my healing journey too, right? Conversations with
Yes.
people and then watch how they've changed. I'm like, okay, all right. Now when my line in the sand came, I knew where to go because I've been watching them. So
Yes, yes. Oh, thank you for
powerful.
sharing that. It
Yeah.
is powerful. It's, and I love that in both of our stories, there was that awareness. Like, even though
Yeah.
we were probably drowning in so much misery, there was still
Right.
a part of us that was on the lookout for what could be it. And it was just about
Yeah.
finding, it was just about being ready for that next breadcrumb, whatever that could be.
Yes. And willing, you got to acknowledge, accept, but then you have to be willing. Like there's just so many things that come after that. But it is
We
taking that
start
first
from
step.
step, yes, the first step is always the hardest, right? But
Yes.
once we take that first step, then everything, I don't want to say easy, because sometimes it's even the second step is quite hard, but like it becomes
Yes.
easier because we are more resourced, we have more
Yes.
tools under our belt, and we've also proven to ourselves, oh wait, hang on, we've taken that first step,
Yes,
yeah, we
yes.
can take it
And you
again.
too, and you said too, like with the energy work that you had, you didn't know what was happening, but you were feeling lighter. That burden
Yes,
was relieving, right? So a
yes.
lot of the things that was the energy that was contributing to the feeling miserable or whatever, that was starting to lift from you so that
Yes.
it changed how you felt, probably how you thought about yourself. Like it changed so much.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
and one of the things that I learned about energy work later down the track from a more recent mentor is, when we're in the beginning of our journey, when we don't know anything, it's so common for us to want to intellectualize everything. Okay, where is this
Yes.
coming from? Or name this emotion. What is the root cause of this? And completely understandable. But later, and I thought that that was the way to go at that time. I thought that this is what you have to do, even though I didn't fully understand, but there was a part of me that
Hmm.
was just like, no, you have to know where this is coming from, da 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 da. And it helps, it really, really helps. But then later on down the track, the more comfortable I became with energy work, I came to realize sometimes we don't even have to look into what that is. It's like, okay, the energy is there, let it pass. Let's shift it. And then,
I ha-
and that's it.
yeah. Sometimes it's just like now I was the same way. And I
Yeah.
know that for me, my body needed me to follow that thread
Mm,
because some things would come up that I had to know. And that was my
yes.
body's telling me, right? And my
Yeah.
body is still working with me in that I don't trust you yet to do everything you say you're going to do. So I still have to be very, very intentional with, okay, so
Yes.
now when things come up, or I get this trigger, or I get this thought, or I follow
Yeah.
this thread, my body shows it to me. Now it's simply, all right, I can just go, thanks for showing me the connection.
Yes. Yes.
You can let it go and it will, right? And so
Yes.
it's just that honoring. To me, it's that honoring what your body's been holding, part of this self love process, in that, you know what, you've held on to this for so long. You
Mm,
can let it go now. I'm with you. We're on the same page, mind and body. We're on the same page. So
yes.
it's that
Oh,
grace and love that comes from that process. But that is
yeah.
also things that you learn to do and that you learn to give to yourself
Mm,
along your journey. Because I didn't
yes.
know that at step one, acknowledge and accept.
No one knew that. I didn't
Right,
know that.
right, 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 right.
If they taught this in school, then maybe we would have a generation who are of people who are a lot happier and can heal themselves
Yes,
from the get-go along the way.
yes, yes. I um I look at my son. So my healing journey, I didn't parent my kids as a healed human in any way, shape, or form, right? So
Yep.
they got all their stuff. They're going to have their own journey. And I've told them all
Okay.
that. You are going to sit on a counselor's chair to talk and complain about me, and that is okay. That's okay. That's okay. Do it. Follow that, right? But I
Yes.
watch my oldest son and his kids, and I see how he parents them, and it is like
Yeah.
vastly different. And he tells me all the time, be the change you want to see, right, mom?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my gosh, like even you as this 30-year-old adult, you are teaching me and schooling me. I don't know where you learned it, where you got it from, but you keep going, dude, because yeah, my grandkids are going to have a totally different experience than what my children did. And I really hope that that's for all the generation today. Like I have a lot of hope for like the 20s and 30s who are raising children now because they are so much more aware and
Yes.
raising children to process, feel emotions and all that stuff. And I like that just warms my heart because that's what the world needs. That's what we need.
That is where the world is shifting towards.
Yes.
And you know, Brenda, I just want to really quickly say here, thank you so much for sharing that story. And as you were sharing the story about, you know, when you were saying, oh, I don't know, you know, it's amazing to see how my son is parenting his child.
Mm,
And I said, well, he wouldn't be able to parent his child the way he is without having been parented the way you have him. And sure, maybe it wasn't perfect, maybe it wasn't exactly the way you wanted, but it was exactly what his soul needed
yeah.
to
Yeah.
parent his kids in the way that is more appropriate for them. Because each of
Yeah.
us, you know, we choose our families to learn particular lessons, to learn to evolve in a particular way, so that in whether it's a next incarnation or whether it's for our children or whatever, so that we can show up
Right.
better for the community, for our family. So you gave
Yeah.
everything with love, exactly what it is that he needed, and I wanted to honor that. I want
Thank
to
you.
take this time to honor that and honor you.
Received. 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 So, mind, body, soul mastery. The whole purpose of this podcast, right? So, we're souls here having human experience. I think you and I are on the same page. Our souls are going to return and we're going to do it again, right? But for this human
Yes.
experience, we came. Our mind, body, and soul was not in alignment. We didn't even know they needed to be. But yet we've
Yes.
learned that, oh, it's so much better when they are. So we've done the work. While you were in that process and doing the work, which one was harder for you to master? Mind, body, or soul?
Oh, that is a good question. I think it was harder to master the mind. So earlier on, I had said that I was always in my head. But when I
Mm,
started to switch, to try different things, it was so hard to get out of my mind.
yeah. Yeah.
And every time I was in my mind, I would face my inner critic. I would be bashed in my mind, especially when faced with uncertainty, when I'm taking that new leap of faith. Even though my body is trembling with both excitement and fear, my mind would take over and just interpret that as fear and terror
Mm,
and completely block out the excitement aspect of it.
yeah.
So for me, it would be the mind. Even now, whatever challenges I have, even though my soul has always been just there, gently waiting, and my body is always there, willing to hold. But my mind has and probably always will be the harshest critic. And even though it's very much more, it's even though now it's so much kinder, but it's still protective of
Yes.
me because it's been 3.5 decades in the making, right? of being conditioned this way. So the hardest, I would say, would be my mind.
And I would say, too, 3.5 decades of being allowed to run rampant,
Yes.
being allowed to be in control. And so this is part of this journey, right? Is that our mind, our ego, is not the one that should be in control. We should be really living from the neck down, right?
You're
We should be
absolutely
living in
right.
our bodies, following our bodies, the feelings, the intuitive hits, whatever. Like that's how we should be living.
You're right.
We
You're
just get it wrong. We got it wrong. That's how I look at it. We just didn't get it right.
yes. And we could go back in time to way back when as to how it all
Yep.
started, but we won't bring that into this
Nope.
particular
Nope.
episode of this podcast. But yeah, we didn't really get it right. And look, the mind is a really, really powerful resource, and it's a really, really powerful tool for creation, for the creation of our
Absolutely.
reality, for
Yep.
paving the way forward.
Yep.
But it is quite horrific what the mind can do when it is not in service of heart and soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that
Yeah.
is where that's how the large majority of the world has been living. Look at what's happening in the world right now, in politics all over the world, the wars that are happening. It's so mind ego driven
Yes.
that we can't even have a good conversation between two leaders of the world. How can it not at least be civil? That's
Yeah.
what that's all we're
Yeah.
asking for. Civility.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That new world is coming.
Yes, yes.
We will see that in our lifetime. I
We
totally
will.
believe it because it's coming. It's right
Yes.
around the corner.
I feel it. I am really,
Yeah.
really excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an exciting time to, it is an exciting time to be in live, even though with
Yes.
all I say, like, God, I just want a breath. There's too much. There's too much. Like, I can't even go a day. There's too much. Can't we catch a breath? It's just the way it's got to be. I chose to be here. So I just stay in my peace and calm. Yeah.
Yes.
Anywho.
I, I know, absolutely. And it's I have to say, like, I find I can find moments of gratitude where, to see from the day that I was born what has transpired up until
Yep.
the day I'm probably going to leave this earth in this particular lifetime, to see how humans have, well, you can call it advance or regress, depends on perspective,
Right.
how
Yep.
technology have advanced to assist humanity in so many ways, depending on
Yep.
what angle that it
Yep.
is that you're looking at it
Both
from.
good and bad, right? Like there's the
Yes,
duality of both, right?
yes,
And
yes.
everything that, yes.
It just depends on from what angle you're looking at it
Yep.
from, right?
Yep.
And it's in many ways it's horrific, but it's also really, really beautiful because you don't get light without dark.
Correct. Correct. And you've got to delve into the darkness
Yeah.
to see the light. That's what I
You,
believe.
yes, you need that contrast.
Yep.
I think, what
Yep.
was that phrase? You're never going to be able, you can only you can only reach as far to the heavens. What was that phrase where you can only go so far based on how deep your roots go to the depths of hell?
Mm, mm.
That phrase. And I fully believe that because it is
Yep.
through moments of horrifying tragedy and suffering that you will finally maybe be able to see humanity in so
Yeah.
many ways. Because if the opportunity does not present itself, if the opportunity for evolution and growth and the prompt to dig deeper does not present itself, we will never know the depths of humanity, the depths of love, the depths of joy, the depths and the expansion of our light.
Yes.
Yeah,
So well said. Wow.
yeah. Thank you. Feeling it all.
Uh-huh. I know, because I feel like we could go on for another hour easily and not have any lag time in words. It's been fabulous and enlightening and like soul fulfilling for me. Yet, I am going to ask you one last question.
Thank you, Brenda. It was for me too.
Yes.
Yes.
What would you like our listeners to take away? Because we ran a gamut of tangents today.
Yes. I think I will share my biggest lesson earlier on, which I mentioned, which is being lost. I want to
Mm.
share that if there is one takeaway from me, would be being lost and accepting that you are lost is one of the most pivotal and empowering places to be. Because that is when you have a choice to start being the creator of your life. It is the time when you get to choose to play with anything, create anything, be anyone that you want to be, do anything that you want to do. And you get to choose if this is right for you or wrong for you. And when you get to follow your joy that is this innate intelligence inbuilt within you, the way in which your soul communicates with you, that gets to serve as your compass should you choose to go down that road, should you choose to answer the call of your soul. And this to me is honestly one of the best life hacks for me, committing to your joy, especially in the moments of lostness, will take you on this wild ride that you'll never ever want to get off.
It'll be the best thing you ever do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ah,
Yes.
powerful. Beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Brenda.